Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Togen's Fly Shop, Maui Jim Sunglasses, and Hardy Rods and Reels.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Rick Passek, the Fly Fishing Fanatic, and welcome to another episode of On the Bench with Sport Fishing on the Fly. Today, we're going to be doing a little steelhead pattern. Love this little pattern, fairly large pattern. Really like this pattern. It's more of a natural colors. Not a lot of the flashy pinks and purples and stuff that you see a lot in steelhead patterns. This one is a lot more natural. So, let's switch over to the other camera and let's get her going. So today in the vise I have a Mustad Ultimate Predator in a size 4. For the body, I will be using some Holo Tinsel, large Holo Tinsel in gold. For the rib, I'll be using some black stretch floss. For the first collar, if you want to call it that, I'll be using some Canadian Raccoon. Mostly the guard hairs, the longer hairs, with just a little bit of the underfur. This one's very, very full of the underfur, which is awesome dubbing, so don't throw it away when you're done. And then for the front collar, I will be using some one feather of the CD. Here we go, CDL, Coq Leon, and Pardo. Okay. And for the thread, I'll be using some Semperfli Classic Waxed 8/0 in copper or in rust. So, start your thread right behind the eye there. I'm going to stop just before the hook tip. I don't want it to go further than that. That's about as maximum I go. Sometimes I'll even stop a little bit and just make a smaller body. Now in open wraps, I'll come back up to the front. I'll take my one strand of stretch floss. Let's set it in. Just set it in onto my side. So right there. I just pull it back a bit. Just get her nice and tight. And then pull really tight. And I'm just having it on my side of the hook. The reason I'm pulling tight is because I don't want to build up any bulk. It's not a massive deal if you do, but it just looks a little bit better if you don't. I'm not too worried about a little bit of bumpy there because that's all going to be covered. So now I'll come back a little ways and I'm going to take my piece of large gold tinsel. The one I actually really prefer the copper tinsel from Semperfli, but I only had the medium, and it's just a lot easier to tie this bigger one with a large, so I ran out of the medium. I'll come back to about there. Let's see. Yep, that's good. I was just checking on my tip of my hook because I don't want to go I don't want to go ahead of that, right? So behind it. Sorry. So now I'm going to come up and I'm going to leave myself probably about 2 hook eyes back out of space. Start that first one, and now just overlapping, come forward all the way. So the only flash in this whole fly is what I'm putting on right now. That's it. Everything else is going to be quite neutral in color. This is sometimes they get a little picky, and they don't want those really flashy, bright flies. Actually caught quite a few bycatch bull trout on this one as well, so just gonna nip that off, put that back, just make sure that's tied in really well. Then I'm going to counter wrap. First one is going to be really nice and tight right at the back end, and then I'm going to open up and I'm going to just loosen off a little bit because I do want a bit of a nice predominant rib on this one. Now, depending on the time you have and stuff, you can put a coating of UV resin or whatever on after this point, just to protect that body. I'm not gonna for the video, but you can. I'll just give that a nice good pull after it's been tightened down really well. Give that a good pull. Now I'm going to come back to my tie-in point there. I'm going to flatten my thread. And this is the difficult part for me because of my vision, but let's just see if I can do a split thread with this one here. Usually I can, but usually I usually use nano silk and it's way easier, but should be able to do it here. And if not, I'll do a dubbing loop. Like I said, my eyesight's not the greatest, so there we go. Yay. So, split thread. I put my little bit of Raccoon into a material clip. And I kept on some of that fuzz. And I'm going to just offer it into my dubbing loop. Like so. And I'm going to hold it nice and tight while I spread this out, because I do want it spread. So I'm just going to spread this out nicely. So I want about 2 to 3 turns around this hook. So now I'm going to pinch it really tight here, just below it. Give my bobbin a spin. Give it another spin. I want this really spun up, so it's really spinning up below my fingers right now. And then as soon as I let go, it'll spin that material. Had to back up there because my bobbin was a little bit loose. So now I'm just going to let it, just give it a really good spin. You want to get this stuff really well put into that dubbing loop, right? And if you don't like doing a split thread like I just did, just do a straight old dubbing loop. So again, just make sure that's all in there. I don't want to over tighten this one because this is only it is just wax thread. It's not nano silk. So I'm going to go right back to where I stopped with that body. I'm going to stroke everything back. Stroke it all back. Come right in front of that last turn. Stroke it all back, right in front of the last turn. All the way up until you've used all that material up. I'll just tie that off. Just make sure that's tied down nicely. Okay, I'll take my brush and I'll just give it a bit of a brush just to get any of the loose ones out that didn't catch very well. And what this is going to do, this here is going to actually hold my CDL, my hackle, my front hackle, out more. So it's really going to allow it to breathe really well. So I'm just prepping this CDL feather. So I took all the fluff off the bottom. And depending how heavy you want to dress this, I could go back quite a ways here and take some more off. But I actually like it a little heavier. This one I will take a little bit off, but not a lot. So now I'm going to tie this one in by the tip. So just going to find my tip of my feather here. And just stroke all the fibers back. So there we go. I want the shiny side or the barred side out, facing me. Now you can stroke that back if you want, or you can cut it off depending on what it looks like. I'm going to cut this one off. Most of the time I actually don't, but that one didn't look very good. So now I just, every time I go around, I just make sure that it's all stroked back and it's right tight. My first couple of turns are right tight up against that that ball of Raccoon. So there. And every time I come around, I make sure I pick those fibers out. Right? It's a really, really good swinging fly, like I said, especially on those overcast gray days. I find they really like these. So just keep on stroking that material back every time you come around. Make sure you don't twist this feather every time you come around, because that'll give it the wrong side will be facing out, and you don't want that, right? And you want that natural backwards curve. Keep on coming until you use this entire feather up, right up to that eye. There we go. Just tie that off. 2, 3, 4 times behind it. 1, 2, 3, 4 times in front of it. Cut off my stem. It's going to build just a little bit of this nice rusty copper head. Not a huge one, but you definitely want to have a head on it. Whip finish. Nice and tight. Cut that off. If there's any material caught, just give it a brush. Quite often that'll, here we go, that pulled it out nicely. There's this one little stray one I don't like. It'll go back anyway when it's wet, but I don't like it. So then I'm going to take just a little bit of Sally Hansen's here. Stroke everything back, so you don't want to get it into the feathers if you can help it. Return, stroke everything back. There she is, finished fly. Like I said, really, really, really good fly on those gray days. I found that it works extremely well on the gray days, and on those days where the steelhead are being really picky, right? Where they're just you can see, you know they're there, you can see them, and they're just not taking the colorful flies, or if they're coming and taking the colorful flies but they're not committing, I turn to this one. I have a few other versions of it, but they're all of this natural color scheme. So, alrighty, great swinging fly. Like I said, this thing it'll slick back and it'll pulsate, because that raccoon, the guard hairs of the raccoon will hold that out. So this will pulsate really nicely. So, okay, hope you guys enjoyed that one, and thanks for watching another episode of On the Bench with Sport Fishing on the Fly.